Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. This is week 17 of Trade Talks. My name is Ryan, and I'm joined by Brian today. It's Brian and Ryan Show. We'll be diving into the fantasy playoff schedule. We'll provide our trade targets, and we'll get some trade grades on some real trades from the listeners. Here we go. All right, welcome in everybody. Trade Talks week 17. It's the Ryan and Brian show this week. We're missing Evan. Brian, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Missing Evan. We'll see if we can get some discussions where we go against head to head here, because I know Evan's usually one to break that tie. So we'll miss him dearly, but we'll do our best without him. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I think he'll have a way of getting into the show somehow. I know that he brought up some topics that we're going to have to discuss, where I'm just going to hear his voice in my head being like, I told you Rasmus Dahlin would go off, right?
Yep. Absolutely. I was listening to Real Kipper and Bourne the other day, and they were even talking about how great Rasmus Dahlin is. And in the back of my head, I was like, oh, there's Evan. Evan's talking about him.
Yeah, top four fantasy defenseman. Nightbane is in the house. Trade Talk boys in the house. So are you, Nightbane. Nyes just hit free agency for Nightbane. Should I attempt to pick him up? This is bottom of my roster. Olofsson, Morgan Riley, Tippett, Clark, Svetch. Need to drop a second as Tay's getting healthy. Brian, would you take Matthew Nyes over any of those guys?
Absolutely. I'd take Nyes over Olofsson. I don't think he's going to last very long on Colorado's top power play. They've shuffled it all year. They've done that. They did that last year too. Yeah, I'd jump on Nyes.
Yeah, and he is clarifying head-to-head points Banger League with plus minus. That kind of explains Devin Tays being on the roster, I guess. And yeah, I totally agree. Olofsson, I would drop for Nyes, and then yeah, I don't know who I would drop there for Tays. Do you have anyone?
I was just thinking this. Like, honestly, I think I might drop Morgan Riley. Like, I think we're all like so frustrated with Morgan Riley, but if you really want to bring Tays back, I think I'd be fine with replacing another defenseman for a defenseman, personally.
Yeah. All right. And Struck by Meteor is in the house. Welcome on in. He asked thoughts on my Eklund for their Patrick Kane. Yeah, if you didn't see the latest Detroit practice, Patrick Kane is back on the top power play. And I think that is a great sign for great things to come for Patrick Kane. So I would do that in a second.
Yeah.
Would you, Brian?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I think Eklund was down on the third line for a bit. I didn't see him on the top power play. Like, if Patty Kane's getting back to that top power play, that's where he's going to get his value. Yeah, jump on it.
For sure. All right, you want to take us into some newsies?
Yeah, let's kick things off with some newsies here. So some wild stuff happened around the NHL. If you haven't heard, we'll break it to you right now. Panarin just got announced. He wasn't traded, but he was announced out until he gets traded. It looks like he's going to be out until the Olympic break, which is really tough considering there will be a couple games before then. So if you didn't already, make sure you put Panarin on the IR Plus while he's still out and pick up a streamer in the meantime. Anton Lundell in Florida, he exited the game early, but fortunately, Paul Maurice did say he was going to be fine or expected him to be fine. Elias Lindholm in Boston did have an upper body injury, currently being evaluated, which sucks for me because I have him in the APL and he was just hitting the ground running. It seemed like him and the McAvoy stack were looking nice. So that's tough. We got to find a replacement, but yeah, I'm not sure how serious it is. I didn't see the injury. Ryan, did you get a chance to see the injury?
I didn't see it, but
No.
Okay. I heard he might be day to day.
Okay.
And whatever that means.
Yeah, whatever that means. Day to day in the NHL could be 2 days, 1 day, half an hour, 10 years. We don't know. Moving on here, we also got Jordan Kyrou, who's day to day with an upper body injury. And we're going to keep going with some injuries here. We got UPL and Buffalo, lower body injury, which definitely could mean a bump for Alex Lyon in net. He will be getting the lion's share of the starts while UPL is out.
Nice.
And then Brian Rust just got a suspension, which I never thought I'd really say. Brian Rust is suspended for 3 games. It was not the nicest play on his part, but he's sitting that out. And I think he's back Tuesday, or I guess they played Monday, I think, or Tuesday. So he'll be back next week, though. So if you do have him in your lineup, again, make sure you put him on the IR plus if you can. Pick up a streamer in the meantime. But he'll be back. And to Brian Rust's standards, I have a feeling we'll talk about him later in the show, but to his standards, he's having a pretty healthy season. So definitely someone you're going to miss, and hopefully you get him back into the lineup. And then Dylan Guenther, speaking of another injury, late notice, around just like maybe a half an hour before puck drop, I think it was, on Dylan Guenther was just labeled as day-to-day with lower body injury. He did take a hit, and it didn't look so good. So he is still day-to-day for now. Again, we don't really know what that means. I haven't seen anything to update him on that injury, but hoping that it's not long-term, of course, and that day-to-day really is day-to-day, and he's back later this week.
All right. And in some other newsies, Thatcher Demko confirmed out for the season with hip surgery. Unfortunate for him. So Kevin Lankinen, he might be the actual starter. They might go to a timeshare with the guy with Tolopio. Was that his name, Brian? Am I butchering this?
I think it's, I don't know. I'll butcher it too. Tilapia. I think it's Tilapia.
Tilapia, the fish guy.
Yeah.
Tolopilo. Okay, I should stop. Tilapia, that's the name. Anyways, keep an eye. Either way, I'm not really interested in categories leagues unless it's like a pure volume league that only counts saves and maybe goals against average. But yeah, in points leagues, that do help with volume. If Lankinen's getting 2 out of 3 starts, I'd be happy picking him up as a good 0G option down the stretch. I think volume is volume, no matter where it is, and Vancouver can provide that for you. Also in Vancouver, Zeev Buim has a fractured cheekbone, so he's likely out until after the Olympics. Philip Hronek scored a power play goal last game, but I think they're running kind of a split 1A, 1B power play, which we don't love, but Philip Hronek, worth a look for sure. Mm-hmm. And then Devin Tays is getting closer. He's labeled day-to-day. And Alex Barkov was at practice after being ruled out for the season. It is only January, and he was, skating. I don't know what that means, but a lot of people on Yahoo were picking him up, and maybe you should too if you have room on the IR, because if he comes back for your fantasy playoffs, that'll be a huge boost. And Robert Thomas is also skating, but there's no update on his return. And Shane Gostisbehere is back at practice, so his return is imminent.
For now.
For now, yes. All right, so now we're doing a interesting little segment of playoff schedules. We're going to go through the fantasy hockey playoff schedules because now is the time to get those final trades in the next couple weeks, especially over the Olympic break. And you really need to know about the fantasy hockey playoff schedule to really optimize the trades, optimize your games played, and evaluate where you are in the season. So I'll start us off here. We're going to take a look at week 21, which is when a lot of people's fantasy hockey playoffs start. If your fantasy season ends on April 5th, which I think a lot do, this will be your quarterfinals. This will be the first week of the playoffs. If your fantasy season goes all the way to the end, you might have some stars resting and talk to your commissioner, because I think it'd be better to finish your league sooner, but too late now. This would still be, I guess, the regular season, but we're going to talk about it. This week 21, there's not the heavy nights on this week. It aren't too bad. The Saturday, the Thursday, the Tuesday are technically the heavy nights, but there's only 10 or 11 games being played on each of them. So I think there's going to be a lot of roster flexibility this week and a lot of ability to stream, and players playing on those heavy nights aren't really going to hurt you much. So I think the light days or the off days in this week aren't as valuable. So the Calgary Flames, who are playing 3 light days technically, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, is not going to be such a boost. So I wouldn't be really valuing the Flames light days here as super valuable. Same with the Avs. You really just want to find teams. Half of the teams are playing 4 games this week. And yeah, you want to take a look at that. Calgary, Colorado. I'm not going to name them all, but I will just point your attention to the bottom of the list there. St. Louis is the only team to play 2 games this week. And that would be a huge bust on your quarterfinals. Although, like, Rob Thomas might be the only one if he's not traded.
You have St. Louis. Yeah.
So just keep in mind if you're trading for any Blues, just keep in mind this quarterfinals week is going to hurt you. But yeah, like Brian, I don't think there's too much to attend to on this schedule. You really just want to optimize amount of games played here. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think it never hurts to have more games than your opponent. So that's the way I'd kind of look at it. Plan your weekend, set your lineup, take a look on which days you can fit guys in, and then see if you can fill those spots to really maximize your games. I'm looking at, like, I'm sure we'll talk about it more throughout the playoffs, but taking a look at a team like the Rangers, for example, with Panarin on his way out, you might have some guys there that could give you some value. Like Lafreniere will probably end up on power play 1. That could be valuable to you, assuming that the offense can score some goals, but I think he'd be valuable there. He offers some peripherals as well, so that could definitely help. So that's kind of the play I'd look at. Which guys, I'd start with the 4 games, see if I can pick up a streamer that'll last me the whole week, and then look to who I might be wanting to hold throughout the rest of the playoffs. So Alexis Lafreniere kind of comes to mind.
Yeah, nice. And just also want to point out, given that there's half the teams are playing 4 games, we can also take a look at the matchups. So in terms of goals against allowed by the opponents, the Islanders are looking good this week. The Sabres are looking good this week. The Tampa Bay Lightning are looking good this week, as are Carolina and the Rangers, and Calgary and Boston. I will point that one out. All right, we're going to take a look now at week 22, which is the really interesting one, which is going to be a real annoying week. So this week will be the semifinals for a lot of leagues. It might be the quarterfinals for leagues that go to the end. This is week 22. So this week, the heavy nights are super heavy, and it's going to be really tough if all your players are playing on these heavy nights. The Saturday, there's 15 games. The Tuesday, there's 15 games. And the Thursday, there are 13 games, which basically everyone's playing on those nights. And there's just one team that really sticks out this week, and that is the New York Rangers. You mentioned them for week 21, but this is the week where they're going to be so valuable to own. And as long as they're doing something for you, we're not picking up Noah Laba on this week. But yeah, they play all 4 off nights. So if you own them, it gives you just an extra spot, an extra player you don't need to bench on those heavy nights. So this is a team, like you mentioned, quarterfinals, they have 4 games, semis, they have 4 games, and this amazing schedule. So this is a team I'm looking at to target, because if I have a bye in the first week, or just, the semifinals are going to be my toughest competition. I need to secure maximum games played. So I'm looking at the Rangers. I don't know who's going to get traded, but I think JT Miller would be safe. I would think Lafreniere is safe because his value has never been lower.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I'm looking at the Rangers. I would love to target the Rangers here to give me roster flexibility. Other than that, the Boston Bruins look pretty good with 2 off nights, but they still play that Tuesday and Saturday. And the Blackhawks play 2 off nights as well. And then the Buffalo Sabres, I want to point out, they only play 3 games, but 2 of their games are on the off nights. So they don't play until the Wednesday, but then they play the Wednesday and the Friday. So you won't need to bench them on the Tuesday and the Thursday. So this week, Brian, do you have any plans for this week?
Yeah, say a prayer. No, I think it goes back starting at the beginning of the playoffs. You would look at the playoffs, assuming you're going to make it right to the finals. So that's why the Rangers would be at the top of my list. Who can I pick up from there? And then Buffalo, like we know, they have a couple of players. Like Buffalo as a whole, as a team, has been playing really well. So take a look, see if maybe Josh Doan is available. He might be rostered. He might not be rostered. If he's not rostered, you can pick him up for that week. I would do that. Samuelson, same thing. Yeah, I would take a look to see if there is anyone that you could trade first and foremost, because that's what we're trying to, get through here. But if not, I would look to see at which streamers would be available for that week. Because, yeah, Ryan, to your point, having the off nights, especially this week, is going to be very, very important for you. Otherwise, everyone's going to have the same amount of games pretty much. So really want to jump on that.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like take a look at your team and at these teams who play 3 games all on the heavy nights here. If you're possibly going to bench them, they're going to do nothing for you. So if you can, like, let's pick a team here. We have Minnesota. Honestly, if you have Matt Zuccarello, you might be benching him all 3 nights unless he's going absolutely off. So if you could trade him, even I don't know. Even Lafreniere might be more valuable to have on your team for this week, or even just the full fantasy playoffs, than Matt Zuccarello. Would you agree? Is that a hot take?
No, I would agree, because that's the thing. If he's gonna, and if you have him on your team, yeah, you're happy he's on your team. But if he's gonna sit on your bench while your roster is full on the busy days, then he's not going to do you any good. So you may as well get someone who's going to play on those late nights. So yeah, I actually like that take. I got Zuccarello in a couple spots. I think that would be my trade chip moving forward.
All right. Let's take a look at what would be the fantasy finals for a lot of teams, week 23. This one's an interesting one as well. We have a 5-game week from the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that is pretty cool. If you could fit them all in, that would be an extra game than everyone else. And then just looking at the heavy nights, Saturday is going to be dreadful again, 15 games. And Thursday, there's 14 games. Other than those 2 games, it seems like there will be roster flexibility throughout the whole week. So if you can get players that aren't playing on those 2 games, that would be great. But yeah, just looking here, Pittsburgh will be valuable. St. Louis does not play on either of those heavy nights. So that would be an interesting look. St. Louis is going to hurt you in the quarterfinals. They're not going to do much in the semis, but yeah, so the finals, it could be helpful, but that might be more streamer level. But we're looking at the Ducks and the Avs here playing 3 off nights as well. And then just taking a look at the bottom there, Nashville and Utah are going to be the teams that hurt you. They play 2 games and both on those off nights. So yeah, not great for Utah. Nashville, that might be a sign where a Philip Forsberg, a Ryan O'Reilly, a Steven Stamkos, they might be good chips to trade away while they're going through this hot streak. Even Utah, I love Utah to pick things up offensively down the stretch, but in this week they're playing just on the heavy nights. What do you think?
That's tough. Yeah, that is really tough to only have, if you have Utah guys plural. That's tough if you make it to the finals and they're only playing on the two busy nights. Yeah, I think it's worth a shot. I think, depending on where you are in the standings, if your league values more the regular season, obviously you're going to keep that in mind because they play a lot of off nights during the regular season. But if we're looking ahead to the playoffs and you have a cushion in the top 3, yeah, definitely try to trade away one of your Utah guys that you would absolutely have some trade chips. There's a lot of talent in Utah: Dylan Gunther, Clayton Keller, Schmaltz, even this year, Sergachev. See if you can find something for them. I'm sure you could. Someone with a nicer playoff schedule would really go a long way for you when it gets to crunch time in the playoffs.
Yeah. All right. So just a little summary here for those 3 playoff weeks. Bear with me if these aren't your playoffs, but I do think it's the majority of our listeners' playoffs. We will get to that last week, but if this is your 3 playoff weeks, we're looking at the left here. The Rangers, the Boston Bruins, and Pittsburgh are the teams that play 12 games played. So those are some great targets. And then we have, a whole bunch that play 11, but I'm going to highlight the bottom teams that only play 9. Again, St. Louis, which are going to hurt you in the quarters and semis. Toronto only plays 9, Utah plays 9, Minnesota plays 9, Edmonton only plays 9, and Seattle only plays 9. So just looking at that, like Edmonton only plays 9 games played. And let's take a look at Colorado, who plays 2 more games, 11. Brian, who would you rather have on your team, Nate or Connor?
Nate.
Yeah, I guess we all drafted Nate first overall anyway.
Yeah. I think it, I mean, as you're going through the playoffs, like generally speaking, your matchup is going to get harder and harder typically. Like obviously the schedule plays a huge factor, but I think you want the guy who's going to give you the more games throughout the playoffs and then find your way through the finals, I think. So yeah, I'd be leaning Nate.
Yeah. And how about this? Since Minnesota only plays 9 games in the playoffs and 6 games in the semis and the finals, I'm curious, if you own let's say Sidney Crosby. You own Sidney Crosby because Pittsburgh plays 12 games. If I offered you Kaprizov for Crosby, would you take the trade? And do you think it's a bad trade?
Honestly, like here's my head's at, because I have Kaprizov and I have Utah guys and I have Nashville. So that to myself that's going to be a problem. So I'm thinking I probably maybe not start with Kaprizov, but if that was offered to me, Crosby for Kaprizov, I'd definitely give it a strong consideration for sure.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's the games played. You know, Kaprizov could go off and have 3 points per game every game, but odds are he's going to average 1.4 points per game. Crosby maybe 1.1 point per game, but Crosby's going to play 3 more games. So
yeah,
I might want Crosby. Take a look at your schedule, go click ahead to those dates and see where you can fit guys in. But yeah, this is a big one. And then just looking at the semis and the finals, Utah is the big stinker there that only plays 5 games over that span. And then some big boys who play 8 games: Rangers, Flyers, Bruins, Pittsburgh, Senators, Devils, Canadians, and Florida Panthers. So yeah, I mean, if you have Clayton Keller, I don't know. I might want to trade him away.
I do. Yeah. You see, it's one thing because it's like you got to get through the regular season first, get the best seeding you can. But then at the same time, you should also be looking ahead to playoffs, especially at this time of the year. So yeah, that's definitely something I'm going to have to start taking consideration of, because I got a lot of guys who don't play very much during the playoffs. So that could definitely hurt me.
Yeah. And now's the time to do this. That's why we're bringing it up now, because there's only 3 more weeks left in the fantasy regular season. We have this huge Olympic break. Next week is a fantasy week that for most leagues will run like 3 or 4 weeks in time. Mm-hmm. So your fantasy regular season is going to be over before you know it. So start taking a look at this with us.
Definitely.
All right. And this one's for everyone who plays to the end of the season. We're looking at week 24, the very last week of hockey. A lot of fantasy leagues would be over by now, but if your league goes right to the end, a little bit of an opposite trend here. We have the Sharks and the Kraken playing 7 games in this span. So they're the big boys in this week. And then looking way at the bottom, it's a bunch of teams we liked for our fantasy playoffs, I'll say. We have Pittsburgh, Boston, New York Rangers, and the Islanders and the Capitals all playing only 4 games this week. So 3 games less played than, Macklin Celebrini and Jared McCann, the superstar on the Kraken. He's a superstar, right?
Yeah, 4-point night the other night. He's got to be a superstar.
Yeah. So yeah, that should be taken into consideration here too. If you're balancing the finals here, maybe the Rangers and the Bruins and the Pittsburgh Penguins aren't the targets for you. But yeah. And then I do also want to bring up, if you aren't, in first or second, and you're still battling for a playoff spot and making trades, it is useful to know about the remaining games played in your fantasy hockey regular season. So what I have here is a summary of games from Monday, February 2nd until the start of the playoffs, so March 15th, if your playoffs start on the 21st. So what we have is Buffalo, Toronto, and Pittsburgh playing the most games played. Anaheim's up there with 12, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Buffalo are with 13, but Anaheim does play the most off nights with 8. And then an opposite trend here to our playoff targets, the Rangers and the Bruins only play 10 games. So if you are targeting them, keep that in mind, that you don't want to be in a playoff hunt, hoping that the Bruins and the Rangers are going to get you to the playoffs. You want to have a secure spot and then reap the benefits once you're in. All right, it's time for some trade targets. Brian, are you ready for some trade targets?
Ooh, I'm ready. I'm excited.
All right. Before we get into that, actually, we did have some more comments that we should take a look at.
Making me wait now for the targets. That's crazy.
Maxwell Wong, he just joined. Welcome on in. Yeah, Panarin shut down till after Olympics. Yep, that is wild. We touched on that. Pakora, do you think Trocheck is safe from getting traded? I don't think he's safe from getting traded. He is signed, I think, like 5 more years. But, I mean, I think everyone's on the table for the Rangers. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's safe, really, on the Rangers, except for maybe JT Miller. But Trocheck, just think of the return the Rangers would get if they traded away a guy like Trocheck who does it all, can win faceoffs. Like we talked about him last week on Trade Talks, like where he could end up, and like there's a ton of possibilities. So I don't think he's safe by any means.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams would be really happy having Trocheck on their team as a first or second center. He's also asking, how would you rank Konechny, Jeek, and Fantilli rest of the season in Bangers Cats? I would probably go Eriksson, Konechny, Fantilli. Brian, how about you?
Yeah, I'd do the same. Yeah.
All right. Evan Galoshitz. Hello, Evan. Currently holding Thomas Harley, but I have Heiskanen, Rantanen, and Oettinger already. Want to get rid of him, but his value isn't that high. Could you give me a realistic trade target for a D-man? That's interesting. I know Harley comes up in a trade, so stay tuned. But yeah, his value is super low right now, and I really don't think you're getting anything close to value for Thomas Harley unless they're banking on Heiskanen getting injured, which I don't think you can bank on. Brian, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I think also just rule of thumb, rostering that many guys in the same team is never going to be beneficial. I think because if things are going well, they're all producing. If things aren't going well, then everyone gets zeros, and like we don't like that. I think you're not going to get the return that you want for Harley, but with that said, I think you should just really look ahead to the playoff schedule, take a look at what teams play the most, and then try to find a defenseman that's maybe a little bit worse than Harley, but it's going to give you that extra games. That's kind of probably how I'd go about it.
All right. And Wyatt Boone, I have 3 goalies. Should I try and trade one? And if so, who should I try and get for them? My goalies are Swayman, Sorokin, and Carol Vejmelka, our boy Carol. Interesting. Without knowing the league, I think in most Cats leagues, I'd be fine with holding 3 goalies. Even some points leagues, if you're, as long as you have some off nights, and I believe Vejmelka still has plenty of off nights left. Brian, what is your take? Would you hold 3 goalies here?
Never. Never. You're lucky if I'm holding 1. No, I would probably, like, without knowing much about the league, I'd probably still rank them as Sorokin 1, Vejmelka 2, Swayman 3, just because Vejmelka will have a lot of those off nights. You're always going to be guaranteed a start, and Sorokin has been a better goalie. Now with Swayman, he's actually had a pretty decent year. You could definitely trade him for someone. Now the big question is who. I think it depends on the league you're in. Is there a team that doesn't roster goalies? Are they looking for goalies? Are they losing their goal? Like if it's categories, are they losing their categories every single week? Because if so, they will pay a lot for a solidified number 1 goaltender like Jeremy Swayman. So I don't know. I can't really say who I'd target without knowing more, I think.
Yeah. All right. We got best kept secret. What do you think of trading Larkin for Aho, or Larkin for Brock Nelson, or Larkin for Brat? He's getting a bye week, and playoffs end in week 23. So like we were talking about. So going after Aho or Nelson or Brat. So Aho and Nelson have the better schedules. I wouldn't trade Larkin for Brock Nelson, because Brock Nelson's value is might be short term. We don't know. He's on fire, but it's really contingent on him playing on that top power play. He's really turned that power play around. So, but I wouldn't trade Larkin for him. I might trade him for Aho, and I wouldn't trade him for Brat, given Brat's trade value at the moment. I think you can give up less for Brat. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I think I would without a doubt trade him for Aho. And I would definitely not trade him for Nelson. And Brat, I think you can give up even less to get Brat back. So yeah, I think we're of the same mind here. Brat's value is at all-time low, and I think you might be able to get away with giving away someone else lesser than Larkin, because he still shoots a lot. He'll give you some points. Yeah, that'd be my take.
Yeah, I'd be happy to go for Brat, just not with Larkin. Maybe maybe if they own Brock Nelson and Brat, you can give up Larkin for both of them. Maybe we can work that out.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
All right. Hello, guys. I'm in a season-long capped league. Goals equals assists, and mine are waiting for shots. He's overplayed his forwards. Does JT Miller, Forsberg, and Patrick Kane for point? Leo Carlson and Rob Thomas makes sense. Interesting. So you're getting rid of Forsberg, who might have a bad playoff schedule. You're getting rid of Miller, who has a great playoff schedule, and Patty Kane, who I think is about to rebound. And you're getting point, Leo Carlson and Rob Thomas. I would not do that. I don't think you're getting enough value back.
Yeah, you're seeing Robert Thomas, and immediately you're thinking, no, I don't want him. It's a bad trade. Yeah, no. It's funny because it's like a season ago, some of these guys you would never even consider it. But seeing the season they've had this year, Forsberg, Kane, JT Miller, Point, Carlson, Rob Thomas. Yeah, I don't like Robert Thomas this year. Braden Point has been super disappointing for me. And Leo Carlson, when he comes back, I don't know how good he's going to be. So there's too much unknown for me, I think, with the players you'd be receiving. So I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our trade targets now.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Here we are. All right. My first trade target. We've been talking about the Rangers playoff schedule, and that's exactly why I'm doing this. I have Will Cooley as my trade target right now. I am looking in a lot of my leagues, but really I'm looking in my category leagues, especially counting hits and even blocks. Will Cooley, he's on a 40-point pace right now. He got 45 last year. I think 40-point pace is reasonable if he stays on that, which I think it's very sustainable given his role right now. I'd be happy because he's averaging almost 4 hits and 1 block per game, which is great from a forward. But there's the potential that he moves up into the top 6, maybe even the top power play, where he had some time earlier in the season, once some players start getting traded from the Rangers. And yeah, his teammate quality will go down, but I think his ice time will go way up. And if the Rangers keep JT Miller, Mika Zibanejad, and he finds a way to play with them, his teammate quality will actually go up. So I think he has a lot of potential. And then add in with that the playoff schedule, especially week 22, it's going to be huge. So I'd be looking at this guy to fill some hits on my team. And even if you don't need the hits, and you could work out a trade where it's just you're getting rid of a similar type player, maybe Kiefer Sherwood. Honestly, the hits king from last year, I would trade him for Will Cooley right now. I think I would take the 0.5 hits per game downgrade and get that amazing playoff schedule from the Rangers. I would also trade Heineman or Lawson Krause for him. And I think those are realistic trades that could go down. Brian, are those realistic? Am I crazy? Would you give up
No,
Will Cooley for Kiefer the Beefer?
I would give up Will Cooley for Key for the Beefer. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great target, though. I don't know if you want Will Cooley. Um, if someone's rostering Heineman, I mean, he hasn't been great, but he does hit a lot. So yeah, I think you can make that trade. You can make the case for all of these all of these players to trade to acquire Will Cooley. Like Lawson Krause right now, I think he's still playing with Keller, is he not? So yeah, so that's huge, and he hits a lot. Someone might be thinking, oh, maybe he'll stick with Keller all year long, which I doubt. So yeah, I would make that trade for Will Cooley just on the potential alone. And let's not forget earlier in the season when he was on that top power play, he was producing. Like he got a couple goals. He didn't look too bad. Like, yeah, I would be
Yeah.
all in on that trade.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like with Will Cooley, just take a look at your fantasy schedule for week 22. Go ahead and see who's on your bench and who you would bench, and just trade that player for Will Cooley. Just do it, because if they're not playing, what are they doing for your team that week? As long as you're in a secure playoff position, get rid of them. Get Will Cooley. You'll get 4 more games played that week, and it'll be great. It might be Matt Zuccarello. It might be like a Tyler Toffoli. I don't know, but I think Will Cooley is an easy trade target to grab right now.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, who's your trade target?
All right. Speaking of Brian's, I'm looking at Brian Rust. So we already talked about the playoff schedule. Brian Rust, to me, is always under the radar every single year. He typically falls late in drafts, and I think that's a lot because he is typically hurt a lot. Now, I'd be looking to acquire Brian Rust here. One, playoff schedule is great. He is stuck with Crosby, and those two have undeniable chemistry. In terms of his point production, he's always been very reliable. Actually, I think in terms of his overall points, it's a little bit down this year compared to last year, but power play numbers have gone up. He peripherally, like block standpoints, he's blocking, I think, just over a block a game. Like that's super valuable. So even if I'm looking at this from like a category standpoint, like he's going to fill the categories for you, which is really important here. And let's not even forget that Pittsburgh's power play, I feel like out of nowhere, is one of the best in the league. And I want a piece of that because that's always going to help your team. Guys I'd be looking to trade away to acquire Brian Rust. Someone even like Elias Pettersson. I don't love what's going on in Vancouver, obviously. I think that's a dumpster fire. I haven't been impressed with Petey. Yes, he gives you some press, but the point production is just way down from what we would expect of him. And then we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but someone like Zuccarello, if he's going to be on your bench during the playoffs, you don't need him, right? And he has just finished last week. I think he was averaging, might have been 2 points a game last week. Like Minnesota's power play was going really, really well last week. So I think his value right now could be pretty high. So I would be looking to make that trade. And on top of the fact that Brian Russ is now suspended. So, managers could be getting all frustrated with the fact that he can't play because he's suspended. I would jump on that opportunity, see if you can pick up Brian Russ.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, and I mean, I'm probably hyper focused on the playoff schedule right now in terms of trades, but I think it's warranted. And Brian Rust, Pettersson plays 12 games played, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Brian Rust has a 5-game finals and has a 4-game quarterfinals. Like I like this target, as long as he doesn't get traded, as long as Pittsburgh doesn't turn into sellers, which right now they are second in the Metro, but they have less points than the 2 wildcard teams. So it's a possibility that if they lose, they go on a bad losing streak this next little stretch, maybe they turn into sellers. I don't know. You would have thought that they'd be sellers at the start of the season, and then they had surprised everyone.
Yeah, I just think as long as Crosby's there, they're still going to try to make the playoffs. Like I feel like management owes it to him because he's already committed to staying in Pittsburgh. Malkin wants to come back. Like you have your core guys; they're old now, but they still want to win. And the fact that they are, fighting for a playoff spot, they're like you said, they're second in the Metro. I don't think management's going to go off and start selling away some of their top players this year at least.
Yeah.
But I haven't been on a call with management in Pittsburgh recently, so I don't know, but it's speculation from my standpoint.
Yeah. And like the teams that are going to knock them out of the playoffs, the Flyers, the Capitals, if they can like really have a nice bounce back, that's the team that I think could do it. But yeah, like under them is the Islanders, the Flyers, the Capitals, the Devils, the Blue Jackets, and the Rangers. And yeah, management might be looking at those standings, being like, yeah, I think we're good for the playoffs, guys.
Yeah.
Let's maybe add instead of sell.
Yeah. Well, even like you think of a team like Calgary. Calgary last year, they added at the deadline because they were in the hunt, and management literally came out and said, I feel like we owed them a reward for what they've done this year. And they ended up missing the playoffs, but that's just one example, but that's a real example. And I think that something similar will happen with Pittsburgh. I feel a lot less certain now than I did at the beginning of the year that they'll be sellers at the deadline.
Yeah. All right. And then Evan did get in here a little bit. He provided us with his trade target with Leo Carlson, which I like this here. He should return after the Olympics. And Evan thinks that the drop in production may have been due to injury, and the superstar we saw at the start of the season is the real Leo Carlson. If that's the case and you trade for him at what his value is right now, I think that could be a huge league-winning move, as long as you're giving up, no one in the top 100. Because I think, Leo Carlson, he's on a point per game pace at the moment. But if you're just looking at like the last month or two, I believe it's a huge drop and huge disappointment.
Yeah.
The point per game pace is really buoyed up by the crazy start he had, where he was getting like a point, like 2 points a game. So, yeah, I mean, take a look at those stats the last month or so and show the managers who have him. But I think Leo Carlson will be in a great place when he comes back, and I think it's a good target by Evan. Brian, do you think so too?
Yeah, I think I personally am a little bit cautious of Anaheim as a whole. I think they really overproduced the beginning, and I think some regression is due to happen. But I think Leo Carlson would still.
It's already happened.
Yeah, it has already happened, right? But I think Leo Carlson would still be an upgrade on some players on anyone's team. So I would still be making that trade, or at least trying to find the trade target.
Yeah, and depending when he's back, even the rest of the regular season, like Anaheim leads the league in off nights, so that'll be a boost for you.
Yeah.
All righty. Let's get into some trade grades. So if you're not in the Discord yet, what are you doing? Get in the Discord. And if you have made a trade, we want to see it. We want to hear about it. We want to grade it, and we want to hear about your trades in the Trade Talks mailbag, and we will put it on the show and provide a trade grade. So let's get into it. Trade number 1. This is the APL submitted by Red Army, the Apples and Ginos Patron League settings, which is a points league, 12 team. We're giving away Alex Tuch and Thomas Harley, and we're receiving the superstar Jared McCann and Josh Morrissey. So I give this an A-. I think you're getting a lot more value than it seems on paper for Thomas Harley right now. And Alex Tuch, we all love Alex Tuch, but Jared McCann, I think he's finally getting some coaches' trust and taking a step here. And I think Jared McCann could be as valuable as Alex Tuch, and you're just getting a huge boost in defense as long as Heiskanen stays on that top power play. So A- for me. Brian?
I think I like this a little bit more. I'm giving this an A. Just looking at the two players, like Morrissey to Harley, you're getting a bona fide power play 1 quarterback. Their power play, or I guess they have one line that really does the offense, and that's Scheifele, Connor, and then whatever Morrissey's on the ice with them. So I like that. I think Harley points are going to be a lot harder to come by, as we've seen throughout the year. And then McCann, he's finally getting line 1 treatment. He's technically the power play 1. He seems like he's got some chemistry with Matty Beniers and Jordan Eberle. Like, I like what's happening in Seattle. And if his ice time continues to go up, I will really like that as well. The only caveat here is Seattle's playoff schedule versus Buffalo's playoff schedule, but I don't think it's enough to sway me any other way. So I'm looking at taking the two best players in this trade. It's not even one of the two. I think I'm getting both of the better players in this trade.
All right. You want to take us through trade number 2?
Yes, sir. All right, we got a 12-team Yahoo Standard Points League. This was submitted to us by Reese's Pieces. You're going to be giving away Sebastian Aho, Dylan Guenther, Victor Hedman, and you're going to be receiving Pasta. So,
all right.
I think I'm first here.
Yes, sir.
So I'm giving this an A. I do like this trade. You're getting the best player in the trade, and you're giving away Victor Hedman, who, you know, I don't think he's going to be power play one when he comes back. I think Darren Radish has that locked down. I think Dylan Guenther, as talented as he is, he just doesn't seem to get any ice time playing on, I think he's the third line. Like, he's just not getting the attention he should this year. So those two in itself are enough for me to kind of sway the decision. And then Aho is a great player, but Pasta's better. So I think you're going to get the best player here, and you're not giving up as much as you might need to in many cases. So I'd be jumping all over this and hitting smash on that trade.
Yeah. All right. I am as well. More than you. I'm giving this one an A+. Yeah. So David Pastrnak is a great trade target for me, because if I'm a broken record here, Boston has a great playoff schedule with the 12 games played. And honestly, Dylan Guenther in the semis and the finals, 5 games played. So get him off my team. I really like him, but that's three less games played than Pastrnak. And yeah, Hedman, he's an enigma. We don't know what's going to happen. We all think Darren Radish is going to keep the power play. No one would have told you that at the start of the season. Now, Victor Hedman, who was drafted in like the 3rd round of a lot of leagues, is all of a sudden similar to any power play 2 defenseman, which is wild. So yeah, A+ from me. Alrighty, trade number 3. It's a 12-team standard ESPN points league submitted by AMar96, giving away Logan Thompson and receiving Travis Konechny. And I'm giving this one a B+. We have some context here. He also has Vasilevsky and Sorokin, so really good volume goalies already for a points league. But yeah, like Logan Thompson for Konechny, I honestly just think it's fair value. Konechny is what he is, 70 to 80 point pace guy. Logan Thompson, he's shown he could be a real Vezina candidate, but he's been a little inconsistent as of late, and they'll be giving Charlie Lindgren some more starts. So as soon as you're not getting the starter share anymore, I will say he's definitely still the true starter there. I think Konechny is good value for this. I'm not like in love with it, because in ESPN standard points league, like I'd be fine holding these 3 goalies where I think goalie wins are heavily weighted.
Fair enough. I'm giving this an A+. Boom. You get a boom from me, because anytime there's a goal you're giving away, you're getting a player back, I'm all in on it. Especially the fact that you already have Vasilevsky and Sorokin. So if you have 2 goalie spots, like you're going to be benching one of them, and don't really love that. To me, that seems like a wasted roster spot. So yeah, I'm all in on Konechny. I like Konechny for who he is, what he does, his point production. And you already have, like I said, Vasilevsky and Sorokin, and they are excellent goalies. I think that I'd probably wager that is probably one of the best tandems that you could have in your league there. So I don't really feel lost for giving away Logan Thompson. And then to your point, Ryan, like Washington as a whole haven't been great. Logan Thompson hasn't been too great in net, and Washington, they don't give up many shots. So when, a goal goes in past Logan Thompson, that really hurts his save percentage. But I understand his points. It's a points league, right? So those would still count against you. So for me, I'm taking Konechny, and I wouldn't think twice about it.
All right. Not even a second thought.
None.
All right. Trade number 4, submitted by Got Mule. It's a points league where goals are 6, assists are 4. We have 1 for shots, blocks, and hits, and 2 extra for a power play point. We're giving away Eriksson Ek and Svechnikov, and we are receiving Reinhardt. And I am giving this a B. I think this is a pretty fair value trade, and I would actually do this trade. I think, shots, blocks, and hits are lower in this league. A goal is 6, and blocks and hits are 1. I think that's a little lower value there. So Eriksson Ek and Svechnikov, their hits and blocks are not going to be as valuable. And Reinhardt, I think, is just now that Florida has Matthew Tkachuk back and they're really rolling 3 lines. Some people might say that might hurt Reinhardt, but Reinhardt was the only guy doing stuff out there aside from Marchand when things weren't going well for Florida. So I think Reinhardt should have a nice rest of season, and he'll have like that half a goal, half an assist, like pace rest of the way. So I think it's a good trade. I would do it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm kind of leaning on the fence on this. I give this a B minus, so I'm actually leaning towards not doing this. I think Reinhardt would get a boost on the power play, but I don't know about just regular ice time. So I'm looking at this. I'm just thinking like Jeek with that Minnesota power play is excellent. We love that. And Svechnikov on line 1. I know there's a risk that he gets dropped down the lineup, but I think the longer he plays on line 1, I think the less likely it's going to be. So I think you could even get and I'm also looking at the fact that blocks, hits, shots are all weighted 1. Jeek and Svech are going to hit more, shoot. Reinhardt shoots, he hits a little bit, but I think there's some value on those 2 players over Reinhardt. And the only real knock here is the playoff schedules, but at this point, I'm not really even taking that into consideration, to be honest. So I think you're just giving away a little bit too much for my liking. I think you can get away with giving away a little less, like Jeek and Zuccarello. I would do that for Reinhardt and hold on to either Svech or Jeek.
Yeah. All right. And I think you have a good point there where Reinhardt's even strength, minutes or strength of his teammates might not be as strong, or they might be exactly the same as they were. But I think the power play is really where there's going to be a boost here in Florida.
And then when Jones comes back, that'll help too.
Yeah, but the lines last game, I believe Evan Rodriguez was centering Reinhardt and Verhaeghe, and then they had Bennett with Matthew Tkachuk, and they had that that playoff third line going before Lundell went down. They had Lundell, Luosterainen, and Marchand, so they were rolling the 3 lines at even strength. All right. You want to take us to trade number 5?
Yeah, trade number 5. We got a 10-team bangers Cats. This is submitted by the Iser plan. We got goals, assists, power play points, shots, shorthanded points, hits, blocks, face-off wins, and penalty minutes. You're going to be giving away Timo Time, Timo Meier, and you're going to be receiving Rickard Rakell. I believe I kicked this one off. I'm giving this an A, so I actually really like this trade, but I am going off the assumption that Rakell is not traded. So I know we talked about this before, like Meier just is so unlucky. He's shooting a lot, he's hitting a lot, he's doing everything good, but he can't hit the net. And it seems to me like we've also had this conversation for 2 years, 3 years, and it's just not changing. Whereas I really like Rakell's situation with Crosby, with Rust in Pittsburgh on that top power play, and then their playoff schedule is a little nicer as well. So for me, I'd be more than happy with picking up Rakell here and giving away Timo Meier, assuming, again, it's more of the same from Timo that I've seen for the past year, for the past 2 years, and things aren't really going to change.
All right. I'm I'm on the fence here. I'm definitely leaning that I would do this, but I would just do this. I would try to get more for Timo Meier, even though his value is so low. This one is a B minus for me. I just don't think Rickard Rakell is enough value for Timo Meier, who, where did you draft Timo Meier? In the 6th round, in the 5th round? Possibly. You were hoping he was at least a 60-point guy, which that hasn't panned out. He's still shooting a ton, and New Jersey is getting so unlucky, and I think that will turn around, especially at even strength for Timo Meier, because Sheldon Keefe is still putting Timo Meier on power play 2. I don't know why, but yeah, so I would do this trade. I would take Rickard Rakell, and especially because of that 5-game fantasy finals for Pittsburgh. I think that's just the cherry on the top to get me to do this trade.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I'll throw out there is, like, we hear all the time, like last year, Columbus, they had a ridiculously high shooting percentage. And on the other side, teams can go through a whole stretch where they're just historically the whole season shooting a very low shooting percentage. And I think to a player's perspective, like looking at Timo Meier, I can see that continuing and not being the case. So, and that continued to be the case, that he's just unlucky. He just brings it off the post, misses the net, hits the net, hits the goalie right in the crest. Like, that just continues. So that's why I'm also thinking the way I am.
Yeah. And in the last game, they had him down on the third line with Dawson Mercer and Evgeny Dadonov, which
don't love that.
That's not what we want to see here, folks. We want to see him up. He started the game on the second line with Hischier and Bratt, and then they, did some line shuffling because Sheldon Keefe hates Timo.
Apparently.
All right, we have another trade number 6, submitted by Samurai Dom. This is a cupful keeping Karlsson Patron League, 12 team league, points league. We are giving away Timmy Stützle, Wyatt Johnston, and Clayton Keller. Now after going over the playoff schedule, Clayton Keller just has he sticks out to me like a sore thumb now with that, with Utah's schedule. But we're receiving for that package of Stützle, Johnston, and Keller. We're receiving Mo Seider, Brandon Hagel, and Travis Konechny. I'm giving this one a C-. I do not like this trade. I don't like the value we're getting back here. Even with Keller's poor fantasy finals and fantasy playoff schedule, where Timmy Stützle is having one of his best years. Wyatt Johnston's having one of his best years. Both are, gonna surpass point per game. Clayton Keller, he's not having his best year, but I think he has potential to surpass point per game. You have 3 guys who all, I think, could finish on a pace of 90 points the rest of the way. And you're getting back Brandon Hagel, who does all of his work at even strength. He is a point per game player. I'll give you that, but I don't think he can, get to that 90 point plateau, especially with him being left off the power play most times. Konechny is a 70 point player. That's who he is. Mo Seider, I like it, especially in Cupful where blocks are very nice. And I think Mo Seider is a top 5, maybe top 6 fantasy defenseman. But yeah, this is just not enough value for me for Stützle, Wyjo, and Keller. You got so much talent there. Brian.
Yeah, I'm actually on the other side of the fence there. So I'm giving this a B, right smack down the middle of would I make this trade, yes or no, flip a coin. I think it really comes down to what kind of defenseman are you already rostering. If you are looking to acquire a defenseman, you probably need the upgrade there. So for me, right off the hop, if I'm picking up a top 5, 6, 7 defenseman, I'm okay with giving away a little bit to acquire that. And I'm looking at someone like Brandon Hagel. He's on power play 1 now, with Braden Point out. That could very well change. But if you start scoring on the power play, putting points in the power play, that could change. And maybe we'll kick out Bjorkstrand. That would be lovely. But I like Hagel. I like Seider. And yes, you're giving away Stützle, Wyjo, Keller. But we've talked about Dallas as a whole. They're regressing. And I think, his Wyatt Johnston's power play points, that'll start slowing down as well. Stützle, Ottawa to me feels like a mess too, but I know Stützle is a stud. I like Stützle. Keller to me has been kind of a disappointment this year to his standards. Obviously still a really good player, but to his standards, not the greatest. So to me, it's very, very, very close. I think it just really is a matter of what do you value most for your team, for your roster. If you need defensemen, I'd go ahead and make that trade. If you're already clinched second with a first round bye, you don't need the defenseman, you don't need a boost there, then I wouldn't be making the trade. So it really is smack down the middle here for me.
Yeah, interesting. with this one again, the side we have Tim Stützle, Wyatt Johnston, and Clayton Keller. I think Johnston and Stützle are outperforming their preseason expectations. Clayton Keller is underperforming them. I honestly think the rest of the season they could both just go at their preseason expectations of like where we drafted them. And then looking at Hagel, Konechny, Seider, Hagel I think is outperforming. I had a projection of 80 like point per game for him. I think he's on an 87 point pace. I think he might regress a little bit, especially if points coming back and he's off the top power play. Konechny's on a 74 point pace. That's as we thought preseason. Seider is the one who might be outperforming, especially offensively. So I think like all these players the rest of the way, it's similar value for me for like where I had them preseason, and that's why I have like Stützle, Johnston, and Keller. That's a 3rd round pick. That's a 5th round pick, and maybe a 4th round pick. Hagel, Konechny, Seider. That's what a 5th, 7th, and 8th. So that's my mindset. Is that am I crazy there, Brian?
I mean, a little crazy, but yeah, you're pretty close. You're pretty close. But I also like I get so stuck on Hagel in this because I look at that for the season we had him, around the 90 point mark, great. But you also got to keep in mind, like the beginning of the year, he was not putting up any points at all. Like similar to Panarin, he wasn't doing anything. So it's almost like he's going to be backloading all his points rest of season because I think the point pace will remain the same throughout the rest of the season. I think he might end the year with more points, a higher point pace than the other guys. So to me, that's what really sticks to me is Brandon Hagel. Like he is someone I've always underappreciated, and I refuse to do it now. So that's kind of the caveat here for me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people underappreciated him even after last year. Like he was at ADP 50 in a lot of leagues, and I ended up with some Brandon Hagel. Happy about that. All right. I think let's get into some comments here before we finish off the trade grades. We have a question from CHXMP. Is trading Bouchard and Heiskanen for Makar worth it for weeks 23 to 24? Ooh, all right. That's a wild one because Bouchard, Edmonton, again, they're gonna just play those 6 on-night games in the weeks 23 to 24. You're going right to the end. I gotta take a look back at that week because in my mind I'm like kind of ignoring that week. So week 24, how is Edmonton's schedule? Because in my mind, Edmonton has a bad playoff schedule, but week 24, they play 5 games. They play 3 off nights right in the middle. And Dallas plays 5 games, 2 off nights, and Colorado plays 6 games. So the fantasy finals for you aren't really a big difference here. So I think we're just looking at the value. Bouchard and Heiskanen for Makar. Is that too much, Brian?
Yeah, I think that's too much. Like Bouchard and Heiskanen, at no point are they going to be on your bench, right? If you have a couple defensemen, they're going to be in the lineup. So I think that's too much, personally.
Yeah, I agree. Especially like anything on Edmonton, any of those top 5 guys, Hyman, Nuge, Bouchard, and then Draisaitl, McDavid, like even with the poor playoff schedules, there's just so much potential for an explosion of offense. And, Bouchard can get 5 points in a night and maybe Nuge does too. So those 5 Edmonton players, even with poor playoff schedules, I wouldn't trade away. All right. Would you guys consider moving EP40 for Patrick Kane or Zuccarello as targets, or hold until a trade situation clarifies? Yeah, interesting. I haven't heard much on the trade front for Petey. Have you, Brian?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. In this case, like Patrick Kane or Zuccarello, I don't know if that's good value to trade Pettersson for. Well, I wouldn't do that.
Like hits is a category here, and Patty Kane and Zuccarello both don't hit. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I don't think that's enough for me.
Yeah, especially with like Pettersson's going to get his points on the power play, and that is a category here. So I'd keep Petey. Wyatt Boone, should I try and trade someone like Kyle Connor for Sidney Crosby because he has a better playoff schedule, yeah, I would do that.
Yeah.
I'd have to just remind myself about Winnipeg's playoff schedule. But if they're one of those teams that is near the bottom with like Seattle, Edmonton, Utah, yeah, I would do that.
Yeah.
Liam Murphy, I think I'm paying too much, but would you try and buy Quinn Hughes for Forsberg and Timo? It is Bangers Cats with plus minus. I do have Bratt and Jack Hughes, so it would help me diversify. Yeah, I would do that. I'm all for trading away Philip Forsberg, especially after his outburst. And yeah, we already talked about Timo. I think that's a good trade. Mm-hmm. Brian DeBrincat for Gensel or EP40. Wait,
I think it's DeBrincat for Gensel and EP40 or Gensel and Hedman.
You got it.
I was looking at that comment earlier and I was trying to figure it out too. DeBrincat for Gensel and EP40, Gensel and Hedman. Don't know if I do either of those.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think Gensel could be a good piece for the rest of the season in the fantasy playoffs. I might do both of these, to be honest. I want some of Tampa Bay. They could explode too offensively. So
yeah,
I would do both of these for DeBrincat.
Sure.
Don't tase me. You guys kick Evan off? Yeah, Brian did. It wasn't me, guys. Brian, what do you got to say?
Yeah, he was getting on my nerves. So no. No, Evan had to work. He did a lot of the slide. He did a lot of the work for us. So he's off the hook. We're not going to be kicking him out here. We need Evan.
Do you guys think Leo Carlsson will stick at this point per game pace? Brian, what are your thoughts?
No, I don't think he'll be a point per game. But that's not to say he's not going to be valuable. I think he'll be just shy of point per game. But I think there's a lot of talent in Anaheim. And I think he drives a lot of that. So I think he'll still get his biscuits. He'll still get his points, but it won't be a point per game. I don't think it'll be a point per game this year.
Yeah, I mean, point per game might be tough, but I think, just shy of that, like a 75-point pace is reasonable. He had 28 points in his first 21 games. And then he had 15 points in his next 23 games. I think in the middle of that, I think is a reasonable expectation, which I think is a 75-point pace. Mm-hmm. Need some zero-G advice from the fellas. Right. Brian, you're the zero-G hero here. Should I drop Hill to pick up one of Allmark, Wallstead, or Greaves in a 10-man head-to-head points leagues? Wins are 5, losses are -2. Goals against -2.5, saves are 0.3. Interesting. And shutouts are 5. So that one, goals against are heavy, as are losses. So with 900 save percentage, let me do some better math here. I think you need like an 870 save percentage for positive points just from the goals against and the saves. Brian, what are your thoughts on these goalies?
Yeah. No, I think Hill is probably the safest to get wins. As much as Ryan and I both love Greaves, I don't think he'll be the solution. Wallstedt, he's fallen off. Allmark is a high risk, high reward, I think. I think Ottawa is a good team, but he hasn't been able to stop a beach ball this year. So I think I would stay with Hill.
Yeah, it's interesting. He hasn't looked good since he's been back, and this is a 10-man league. So I think don't be stuck on Hill. I do think out of these specific goalies, Hill might be the best at the moment, but I think look at it week to week, look at the week schedule and see which goalies are going to get you possibly 3 starts. If you can pick up a goalie that'll get you 3 starts, maybe it's Allmark when he's back.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Hill or maybe it's Jack Greaves, but they keep giving Merzlikins way too many starts.
I know. I will say, like, Columbus, since they hired their new coach, like defensively, they've put a focus on that. And I think Greaves is the most talented of these goalies, but until we see him get more starts and Columbus win more games, like, yeah, I don't think I can rely on him. So I think I'd cautiously keep Hill.
Yeah. All right. Is McDavid for Wyatt Johnston, Yossi, and Tom Wilson or Lehkonen good? For me, no, that's not enough for McDavid. Brian?
It's McJesus. You can't, no, it's not enough.
Yeah. Not a boom. There's no Brian's boom there.
Yeah, no boom for me.
Yeah. What are some of your fave defenseman buys right now? Yeah, honestly, it's hard with defensemen because if they're not on the top power play, like, are they going to get back there? That's always the question in my head. So I don't really have buy lows for defensemen, and I think they're hard to trade for if they're off the top power play.
Yeah, I think for me similar. But if you need a defenseman, looking at free agency would be my go-to. I think like a lot of the top power plays are solidified. Top power play quarterbacks are solidified, obviously, at this point of the year. But I'd look on your waiver wire for guys like Philip Hronik with Zebuyam out. He's going to get a lot of ice time, power play 1. Samuelson has been good with Darlene. He just gets points by association. Yeah, those are the type of guys that you probably look for. Who has the most opportunity to pick up points?
Yeah. Just looking at a defenseman list right now, and honestly, he was a target at the start of the season when he wasn't doing anything, and in his past like 15 games, I think he only doesn't have a point in 2 of them. Jackson Lacombe. I think he could still be undervalued given that Anaheim has been a little stinky of lately. So I think I believe in Anaheim to rebound a little more than Brian does. And I think if they do, Jackson Lacombe could be even better than he's been lately.
Hey, let's not knock Anaheim. I think Anaheim's a lock for the playoffs. I think they're making the playoffs. I just don't think they have 500-600 point players this year, like, or whatever that is, 2, 3, 4. Like, I don't think they have that this year.
Yeah, fair. All right, let's get back to our trade grades. We got 2 more here to get through. We got Nazem Kadri and Seth Jarvis for Austin Matthews. It's a 12-team standard Cats league with keepers. You keep 6, and there are face-off wins. This is submitted by Thunder Down Under. Again, Kadri and Jarvis for Matthews.
Yeah,
Brian.
Yeah, I'm giving this an A. I'd be doing this trade. I think you're going to be getting the best player in the trade. I know Carolina has a better playoff schedule than Toronto. That's the only reason I didn't give an A+. But like, yeah, I'm taking Matthews over Kadri. He's had the roughest year ever by the like his standards, by the looks of it. And Jarvis is a great player, but Matthews is better. So I'm happy to take your first round pick for a whatever you got Jarvis and Kadri for. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm giving this one an A+. This is a keeper league where you keep 6 and you're giving away 2 non-keepers. Seth Jarvis might be, a 5th or 6th keeper. He might be. But, Austin Matthews, he could be, if he returns to what he once was, he could be a top 3 fantasy player. And keeper league, I'm all over this one. And I don't even think it makes your team worse this year for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
All right. And this is from the same guy, Thunder Down Under, the same team in the same league. But this trade, he's giving away Rasmus Dahlin, who is likely a keeper, and Gabe Velarde and a 7th rounder. And he's receiving Stamkos, Hischier, and a 5th rounder. So it looks to me like he might be like looking to the future a little more. He's moving up 2 rounds here, and then he's trading Jarvis and Kadri for like a really good keeper. But yeah, this one, trading away Rasmus Dahlin, getting Hischier and Stamkos. I'm giving this one a C. I wouldn't do this. You're not getting enough for Dahlin. He's gonna be a top 5 defenseman next year. I will say that.
Next year. That's a caveat.
He'd be a good keeper in this league. And Hischier and Stamkos are just not enough. Stamkos is not going to keep up what he's doing, and you're only getting a 2-round bump up. For me, that's not enough to do this trade. Brian.
Yeah, I see it similarly. I give him this C-. I think you're giving away the best player, by a large margin. So moving up 2 rounds, it doesn't move the needle at all for me. So I think it would hurt a lot more to give up Darlene than to acquire anything. Nico Hischier in New Jersey, I feel like all his career, it's either he's great or he's horrible. It's there's nothing ever in between. And Stamkos is hot right now, but I can see that cooling off. So yeah, I wouldn't think of even doing this trade. I'm C- for me.
All right. And we got something snuck in from Evan here. We took Rasmus Dahlin to court a few weeks ago. I believe the date was January 15, and there's an appeal from the court. And we're going to go through this appeal right now. So Evan lost the case. Rasmus Dahlin was guilty in that we decided, and the good people of the fantasy community, represented by the Court of Fantasy Hockey, decided that Dahlin is not a top 5 fantasy defenseman this year. And then since that date, he has 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points, 18 shots, 14 hits, and 9 blocks in 7 games played. So is Dahlin a top 5 fantasy hockey defenseman? The timing of this is interesting because in Buffalo's game on Tuesday night, Dahlin got a hat trick and 5 points and 7 shots on goal. And that's where all this is coming from. He went off one night. He killed Toronto, unfortunately for us. Yeah. And looking before that, he was doing great since Fantasy Hockey Court, but I don't think he was still a top 5 fantasy defenseman. I'm still, I think the top 4 is still what it is: Makar, Quinn Hughes, Werenski, and Bouchard. You agree there, right?
Yeah.
So now we have a debate of is Rasmus Dahlin the 5th guy? And I just, I still don't think he's the guy. I think Lane Hudson or Jacob Chikrin Roman Josi is making a case lately as well. Roman Josi is going off. Maybe even Jake Sanderson. I just think there's too many guys here where Dahlin is not the 5th guy. He's not solidified himself. Brian, do you think an appeal will hold?
No, I think Evan's gonna hate this. But yeah, I think too small a sample size. And what I was gonna point out is, who did Buffalo just play? Dahlin. Everyone loves to play the Leafs. Before the puck drop even happened, you already knew it was going to be a high scoring game. Those two teams hate each other. Dahlin loves to get in the nitty gritty, and he turns it on when he plays Toronto every single time. So that's half of his points was in the last game that they played. So I think I want to see a larger sample size. So before I can make any sort of adjustments, I just think it's so hard to fit into that 5th spot as a top 5 fantasy defenseman, because you have a handful of other guys who are also trying to make the claim to be the 5th best. And you look at someone like Sanderson, he's been putting up points, but his periffs, especially the blocks, have been really good of late. He's been hitting a lot actually too, which is absurd for Sanderson. So Sanderson's making a case for himself too. So I can't confidently say, yes, Dahlin is the 5th best fantasy defenseman. That's not going to cut it.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, just looking at the fantasy points per game in the APL and defenseman, Dahlin is your 6th guy, which is interesting. Darren Radish is up there above Quinn Hughes. Wow. I don't think any of us will concede that Darren Radish is a top 5, but we're also not conceding that, after that outburst, Dahlin is the 5th guy. I just think there's too many guys under there. Sorry, Evan.
Hold up, Evan.
The appeal might be heard. We might get a court back here to hear about Rasmus Dahlin, but we're saying no.
Yeah.
All righty. That is all we've got for this episode. If you're not in the Discord, get in there, and we want to hear about your trades. And in other news, also a really big announcement. 2 weeks from now, 2 Wednesdays from now, February 12th, I believe, we will be running a live mock draft redraft. We are putting every player back in a pool. We're starting a league on February 12th. For the remaining weeks of the fantasy season and doing a full redraft with some listeners. If you want to participate in that, send us a DM on the Discord. We'll also announce it on the Discord, and you can feel free to reply there. But that'll be really exciting. February 12th, tune in for a live mock draft redraft. But yeah, that's all we got. Hopefully it brought you some value and helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. Many thanks to Matt Creamer for supplying the music for the podcast. Thanks for listening, and now go crush your fantasy hockey.